Did you know that South Sudan was the most recent example of a new country? Sam Manel is going to explain this to us. I hope you're ready for it. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go. Let's go.
Hey kids, today I'm going to talk about South Sudan. It's the newest country in the world, becoming fully independent just in 2011.
Okay, so this was made in like 2016. This is an old video, so we got to keep that in mind.
I'm going to explain why the state came into being and what it's like there today. So
Civil
to
War?
understand why South Sudan exists, you kind of have to know a bit about Sudan as a whole. So before 1956, Sudan was under the joint control of Egypt and Britain. At the end of 1955, they gave a declaration of independence and became their own thing. The independence movement, however, was led by this guy, Ismail al-Azhari, and he was like, hey everybody, we are an Arab-oriented Muslim nation. But then like 8 million Sudanese black people were like, whoa now, hold your camels, Ishmael. Us Africans, we ain't all about your Allah.
We gotta back that up, that's kind of funny.
Arab-oriented Muslim nation. But then like 8 million Sudanese black people were like, whoa now, hold your camels, Ishmael. Us Africans, we ain't all about your Allah. He was like, yeah, well who cares? Oh, I see. So they got into a civil war between the primarily Arab-Muslim North and the traditionally oriented African South. That went on for 16 years until finally the North's like, alright fine, you can do your thing. Like, you're still part of Sudan, but you can govern yourself for the most part.
And this is how it's always been in like contested areas. You'll have one person with a superiority complex that believes that they should own this area. And then you'll have a different peoples, a different culture, a different religion, something that just does not mesh with the current regime just because the regime is not accepting of them. And it warrants a country.
Take our falafels elsewhere. And that peace treaty lasted 11 years, from 1972 to 1983. Eventually, the South was like, well, things aren't that bad now, but the Arabs still technically control us, so it could get worse. And I'm not in the mood for any Sharia law anytime soon, so we should...
Sharia law? You can have your opinion about it. Sharia law does not mesh well with many people. Not with me either.
Could probably go back to fighting. So then there was another civil war, which was basically a continuation of the first one, and that ran on from 1983 all the way to 2005, when
That's a long civil war compared to most people's civil wars. Most people's civil wars are like a couple of years. Give it like the Revolution of Russia, or the French Revolution, or the Civil War of the United States. It's crazy.
Finally, the two sides made a comprehensive peace agreement, which led to South Sudan becoming totally self-governing in 2006. Then after 5 more years of fiddling around with paperwork, South Sudan became a fully fledged independent nation in 2011. So notice how there were 2 civil wars before the South gained independence. I guess you could say 2 coups make a Sudan.
That's pretty funny.
So, now that they finally got what they want, it must be great to live in South Sudan now, right?
No.
No, not really. It's actually just about the worst place you could ever choose to live in. Seriously, if somebody gave me the choice of moving to South Sudan, or living the rest of my life with my dick inside an anthill, I'd be slathering on the honey before they even finish their sentence. Let me talk about a few reasons South Sudan sucks so bad. First, let me talk about ethnic groups. Europe, as we all know, contains a lot of ethnic groups.
Oh, yeah.
Scots, Serbs, Slovaks, Slovenes, Spaniards, Swedes. And those are just the big ones that start with S. There's like 100 others. The same is true with Africa. There are thousands of localized ethnic
I just love his effort here with the coloring.
Groups sprinkled all over the continent, whether or not you could tell from first glance. As such, South Sudan is home to a bunch of different peoples, each with their own languages and customs.
Is it really like split like how it's shown right here, or is this just like arbitrariness?
And these groups have a long history of disagreeing with each other, like they don't get along much. So that's one thing. Second, remember how South Sudan was at war with the North for basically all of the past half a century? Well, as a result, the whole place is pretty geared for war and not much else. Their infrastructure is abysmal and they've got all these guns just lying around waiting to be shot at something. Third, South Sudan has a bunch of oil reserves in different locations around the nation, and
should make it a rich country.
We all know how much people like oil. They've got all these guns just lying around waiting to be shot at something. Third, South Sudan has a bunch of oil reserves in different locations around the nation, and we all know how...
I think this drawing on the right is like supposed to be George Bush. George W. Bush. Which isn't bad. which isn't bad. That caricature is not bad.
How much people like oil. Everybody wants control of whatever wells they can get. So between these three things, the whole place is basically one big whirlpool of chaos. At any given time, the South Sudan government is at war with at least 7 different armed groups from around the country, each of which is also at war with the other groups. And if that's not enough of a shitstorm, the government ended up basically splitting in two in 2013. This is what happened. So you've got the president, his name is Salva Kiir, and yes, he does actually wear a hat like this. It was a gift from George Bush, true story. And then the vice president, his name is Riek Machar. I'm probably saying those wrong, but it's fine. They don't have internet in South Sudan, so nobody can call me out here. So anyway, Salva Kiir, he's very aware of...
They should definitely probably have internet now. If you're from South Sudan, let me know.
The fact that the country's in a very precarious spot at the moment. So he starts taking greater control of the government and the military, dismissing old people and installing those that he sees fit. And so Riek Machar, he's like, well, gee whiz, Salva Kiir, for someone who calls himself a president, that's pretty dictatory of you. Well, for someone who calls himself the vice president, that's pretty annoying assholey of you. Sir, all I'm saying is, I'm getting pretty sick of you and that gay hat of yours. I'm not wearing a hat. As president of South Sudan, I order you to put on a hat. Yeah, see? That hat's gay. You're wearing the exact same hat. Alright, fuck you, you're out of a job. Wait, what? Yep, you and your whole cabinet, get out.
You can tell this was made 10 years ago.
Okay, I made up the part about the hat, but the rest of that is true. Also, I should mention that Kiir and Machar come from 2 different ethnic groups. See, Kiir is a Dinka, whereas Machar is a Nuer, which only heightened the tensions between the two. So after Machar got the boot, he ended up taking a chunk of the military with him, most of which were Nuers like him, and they started a rebellion against Kiir's government. This is known as the South Sudan Civil War, and it's still going on to this day. So yeah, to sum it up, if you looked up clusterfuck in the dictionary, well, you wouldn't find anything because clusterfuck isn't a real word. But if it was, there would probably be a picture of South Sudan next to it. Seriously, this place makes Hotel Rwanda look like Hotel California.
By the way, very touching and good movie. Hotel Rwanda. Really, really inspiring movie.
And throughout it all, there's still a bunch of hardworking individuals just trying to make a living, farming or herding or whatever, but the constant warfare makes it so the average person has to live in virtually Stone Age conditions, which sucks, but, what can you do? So that's the story.
Well, there's a lot we can do. We can disencourage the regime that, up to this point, and I think this video is not contemporary enough for us to understand what's really happening there. If you know what's happening there and you have an opinion about it, please inform me. Let me know below. Because, the people of South Sudan are people just like me and you. Like, we're all people. So, yeah, interesting video. I'm more or less going through the catalog of Salmonella. This is an interesting one. South Sudan is the most recent country, as far as I know, 2011, right? So about 14 years ago. But there's a lot that we can do. All we just got to do is lift each other up and find common ground. That's all we got to do. So I'll leave it with you guys on that one. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Bye-bye.